How's it going today?
I'm doing really well, Jen. How are you?
Yeah, it's good. It's lovely and sunny.
Yeah, I see you're in your tank top and everything. It's not quite as warm over here yet. I'm in my sweater still. Um, anyway, I was curious about something because we had a conversation before and we are talking about plants in our home, and I see that you have this beautiful plant behind you. I moved into a new place and literally, everything is kind of blank. In my background, I'd love to include some plants into my space sometime soon. But I know we were just talking just before how plants, it's just such a funny thing sometimes. And you were telling me about your some of the plants that you had at home. Would you like to explain this to our listeners?
Yeah, like I love my plants. They definitely are like flatmates, and I love how they've been growing. Like this one was such a teeny tiny plant when I first got it, when I first moved in, actually. And it's amazing how much just whenever it was ready, it just started to thrive and continue to grow. And I don't know how might turn into a tree. I don't know what it's hoping to become. And I was remarking about how, so I had these other plants, and I remember having just like one leaf left in this one, this clove plant that I bought around St. Patty's like a year ago. And this one I got as a present, poinsettias, around Christmas, like over a year ago. And they were both just like on their last legs, but the leaves were still hanging in there. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to keep, nurturing them and giving them water, looking up what they need. And it's amazing how, suddenly it feels, I guess they're ready. So this is like over a year and a half for the other plant that they're starting to just grow and thrive. Like, so I'm so glad that I just let them survive, like I didn't give up on the last little healthy plant that was left on each of them, and just gave them time. And it's interesting how I think it just needed time because now they're thriving. So I'm really happy for them.
Yeah, and I think it's just really beautiful that, you nurse them back to health. But, I think it's very similar to even our bodies, right? I think that a lot of people, and I know that I have had clients and students that may be coming in with certain chronic health issues or things that they have been dealing with for a while. And it may not even be a health issue, but it could be something internal, maybe a trauma, emotional emotional difficulty that they may be working with for a while now. And we live in such a fast-paced society, and we want things to be fixed and quickly. And so sometimes, people coming in wanting to find healing, wanting to find resolution, they are so focused on how they need to be and how quickly that needs to happen. And with your plants, it's, life happens when we give it space and love and nurturing, and you didn't know what would happen to the plants. You had no expectations as to when they'll grow or thrive, if they will grow or thrive, but there's just this, you know you see that there's this one leaf that's left on the plant that you're like, okay, well, there's still hope and there's potential. And without pressure, giving it lots of space and love, whatever happens, you kind of, you're in this mindset of whatever happens, happens. It doesn't, it's not goal driven. And then look at your plants now.
It's interesting how you say that because it definitely makes me feel like there is a parallel with our loved ones as well. And sometimes we don't know exactly what they're going through, but maybe, if we do give them that space and a sense of timelessness, that there is no urgency, and there's no end goal, just giving them that space and that love and that nurturing. Um, it's amazing what can happen. So, in its own time, right, they can find what they need or open up or whatever that is without any pressure, just knowing that we're there for support, whenever they need us.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned the people who are supporting those that may be going through something. Yeah, I totally agree that sometimes we can get a bit impatient and we want them to get better and we want them to We want to help them, and sometimes in us trying to kind of help them, we may actually put in pressure onto how things need to look in order for them, in order for them to be perceived as being healed or being okay. And I think that's a really important one because um I know I experienced it myself, and I know that some of my clients also, is that, even if they have come to terms themselves that, oh, I accept my illness, I accept what I can do in this moment, without saying that, oh, without feeling defeated and giving up and thinking, oh, now I just, my life is going to be completely different. I'll never be able to do the things I love again. It may or may not be true. What they can and cannot do in the future, we don't know. But so even if they have accepted that about themselves, I find that what they struggle with is the people around them who are supporting them, not offering the support that is actually helpful. The support might be, oh, how can we get you back to the way things were? And I think a lot of the times it maybe they'll never get back to the way things were. And through the challenges one faces going through, serious health conditions and things like that, or a serious life change, it really changes you. And so I find that a lot of my clients and students actually are no longer the same person that they were before whatever happened. And that there's not necessarily a desire to get back to where they were, but their loved ones around them are trying to get them back to the person they were. And so it is a struggle such that, now they're trying to figure out, okay, who am I? What's acceptable to me, and how do I deal with the people around me wanting or expecting something different, and not accepting them for who they are now, which is really hard.
You make me wonder also. So that person, the friends and people that we know, maybe when they're going through something, and if there's a capacity, maybe for them to also understand that this other loved one is feeling that way, right? And noticing that it's natural that these other loved ones might be feeling something also. So if we can be okay with them feeling whatever they're feeling, and ideally perhaps not being affected by it, like whatever we're going through, realizing that there's no shame in it, however it manifests or decides to stay with us, that's okay. And then the other people worrying about us, because we can't change them either. They're like, that's something else, because even they might be projecting something that they have, or this worry, right, might be a disguise for something they're going through. So if we're able to just recognize that in the same moment, which can be tricky, I think, sometimes separating our love for all our loved ones all around us, and where does that begin and end, right? But be able to just hold space for ourselves and for them. I think it makes it like much more nurturing, and there is definitely a less feeling of expectation for either party, right?
Definitely. And I think that, absolutely, I agree with that. I do find that, especially for people who are, going through these life changes or chronic illnesses, it's hard enough already. And, it makes it just that much harder when during times of support that they need to be the one who are holding space, which sometimes is a lot to ask. And I think that, and this is why we have our practices, such that, if we're not getting the support that we need, hopefully we can source from within ourselves. But just like the plans that you were talking about, we also need that space and support and nurture and time for us to heal and to grow. And I think that for those who may find themselves in situations or in communities who are not supportive, that to seek communities and people that can support you. I think that it's important to have that support as you're going through these things, especially when you're not surrounded by people who can give you that. And the truth is that there are always people around who are ready and willing and wanting to support you, though we may not see it when we're kind of sort of stuck, and expect that the people around us need to be the people who support us. And sometimes we may have to recognize that perhaps we're not going to get the support from the same family or same friends that we've known and thought would be there for us. And maybe as we change and our situations change, that we may need to also be open to allow new people in our lives and seek out new communities that can give us that support.
Yeah, you're right. It's a lot sometimes to ask a loved one. They might not have the capacity, ability, or, space to be there in the way that we need somebody to be there. And thankfully, there's so many, I call them like paid listeners. So someone that you could, either a therapist of some kind, or, another irest meditation teacher, whatever it is that the person needs. There are thankfully so many possibilities out there now, free as well. So for all financial needs, and for all different kinds of therapy or assistance or support, depending on what the person needs, there's so much out there, thankfully, and it's really just a click away. Just searching for it, because it can be online now. Thankfully, that's grown, over the phone, for all age groups, which I know we've had to look into, as we support our own clients, and making sure that if there's something beyond what we can offer them, they can seek this support, according to their needs, right? So, yeah, for sure. I think it's important to recognize when it's beyond our loved one's capability or capacity, and that we need to seek out someone else who maybe can distance themselves and maybe have some training in it as well to support us. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I think that's really helpful. But even with just different communities where, you can go on Meetup, you can go on Eventbrite, you can check, there are groups and support groups, even on Facebook groups and things like that, that even if it's not a professional person that you're speaking with, I think that understanding that there are other people out there, other communities out there that may be going through something very similar, to your situation, and willing to be a friend, and I think that sometimes we might get a little bit stuck in thinking that no one understands me. Um, And I think that especially for people who are going through big life changes, because they themselves have changed so much, what they are looking for, um, what they want in life, they're no longer in alignment with the same group of people that they befriended maybe 10, 20 years ago. And sometimes we just assume that, oh, well, those are my oldest friends. They have always been my best friend. I've known them since childhood or whatever. So therefore, these are friends for life. Um, while that can be true, they can be friends for life. But if you're now changing and evolving as a person in such a way that your values and what you need are no longer matching up with your old friends, then it also doesn't hurt for you to establish new relationships as you continue to maintain the older ones, but then expecting your old friends to offer you something sort of completely brand new that you need is a little bit unrealistic unless they're going through that journey with you, right? That's something that I certainly have to learn for myself as well. A lot of old friends that I kind of thought, oh, as I'm going through these changes, and they must understand or offer me support in that way. And it's like, no, they don't, you know? And so being open to explore new relationships, finding new communities, just enriched my life in such a meaningful way, and I still get to be friends with my old friends and have, the friendship that I've had for, many decades, and also not having to put that expectation on them to be a certain way for me, because I can now seek out different communities and connections in every way. I think, sometimes we we may try to expect way more from, say, one group or from one person, then it is fair to do so, right?
For sure. And I think having, an irest, we have that welcoming, right? If we can welcome whatever life is presenting, maybe it's a new friend, a new community, or even an old friend who's revisiting. If we can
Mhm.
invite them in the form of a human, or plants, or like whatever is um, offered by life, I think um, that alignment and that connection just will naturally unfold, right? I'm not just saying that, especially when you move to a new place, which we both have done, there might be some natural stuff, and you might have to be open to doing the meetups and actively seeking out new friends. And thankfully, there are so many avenues for that. And then, like you said, if um, maybe a meetup with a community, like I co-facilitate one for alopecia areata, and definitely a lot of people have said that they can't share a lot of the things with other people who haven't gone through it. So there is a need, and there are those kinds of communities available that are very specific to whatever anybody is going through. And I think it's just a matter of maybe being a little bit brave to put themselves out there, because at the same time, they don't realize that that other person might be also putting themselves out there.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's the first step is really just recognizing where you're at and whether you're getting the support that you need from the people around you. Um, and seeing whether, you are open to having that support, because sometimes we may think that, oh, I want to be supported, but for some reason there's some resistance there and the support is not getting through even from your loved ones. Um, our perception of our reality is a big one, right? It's what's causing us suffering, and sometimes it may be us blocking ourselves in what we think we are getting from our friends and loved ones, and how we perceive whether we have support or not. And so I think that, taking some time and being really honest with yourself and seeing what kind of support do you really need and where might you be able to find them. Why may you why may it be that you're not perceiving that you're getting the support you are getting now, and is that true? um, so I think, some self inquiry might start to bring up some insights as to what you need. And sometimes it might be that we don't know what we need either. And I think that as we allow our hearts to open and just say, universe, help me, and just that openness alone, I think it can start to shift things.
Sounds like we're going towards maybe some suggestions. So I was going to say, from what sort of arose from what you were saying, is also, that that deep internal work. So maybe people taking time to know that and feel that they are always supportive, actually, like within themselves. And if they take enough time, maybe to tap into the inner resource, as we're taught, like using imagery of something familiar or loved or a symbol, using all their senses, or tapping into words that are meaningful or that felt sense for sure, in the body. And as they connect to that more and more, whenever they need to, maybe they can feel that they always have this ease that's always there, even beyond the suffering that they might be in that moment, right? And if they practice that more and more, that could be helpful, so that they aren't ever alone, really, right? And what would you suggest then? Something else they could do?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the inner resource is going to be really important here, tapping into that sense of safety within themselves and understanding that that's, like you said, it's already there and it's always there. And sometimes we forget about it. Sometimes we perceive that in order for me to feel safe and at peace, that my external environment needs to be in order. And so I think the inner resource is a wonderful practice for us to um, understand and experience that actually we can get in touch with a sense of inner peace no matter what else is happening outside of us. So definitely I would encourage the inner resource. Um, and then, even just making a list or journaling, like I said, what is it that you need? Even getting that down, because sometimes we're not even sure what we need. And I think it's nice to get clear on that so that sometimes the people around us, it's not that they're not able to support us. When we're not clear about what we want, it's less clear for others to understand what we want. And so if we can gain more clarity around what it is that I need to be supported, we can also learn to express that. I know it's really nice when others just know what to do and it happens, but also you can't expect that to happen all the time and every time. We're not, many of us are not mind readers. And it's also, I don't think it's fair for you to expect the other to know what you need if you're not even clear about what you need. And if you are clear about what you need, wouldn't it make everything a little easier if you just communicated that? And I think a lot of conflict happens in relationships just on that. And we can maybe talk about this in another episode. But I think, taking some time, getting clear on, well, what is it that I'm unhappy about? What am I dissatisfied about? What would be really supportive for me right now? What is it that I need or want in order to feel supported and nurtured? And then writing that down, and how can other people support me in feeling nurtured? So maybe there's a partner that's in your life, or a family member, or your friend, or a community. What do you need to feel supported? Or maybe, in each and every category, what do you need from different people or groups of people in order for you to feel supported? And then, maybe even getting into, well, what are these people and groups offering you now? Maybe they are already offering support, but sometimes we can get so narrow-minded that we're actually ignoring a lot of things that are happening for us. So what is it that they're doing that may be supportive versus things that they're doing that are not supportive? And then is there a way to communicate your needs, and how can you communicate your needs to these people? And then take action on them, right? And then if the action is that none of these people can be supportive, then what can I do, and how can I find people to support me through this period of time? And I think that sometimes, just getting clear and having it down, write it down on paper somewhere. It's important to get it out of your head and onto something else. That process alone might give you some insight as to what it is that you need and how you can move forward, and it can give you some practical steps, and then you have now something that you can act on, and that could help us to feel a little bit more what's the word, like productive, taking constructive action, and then you can channel your energy somewhere, and that could even be quite exciting.
So let us know, as you spend time on this, maybe being with your inner resource and then going through that list and seeing maybe you're already being supported, or what, brave things or brave actions you might be doing to reach out throughout your community. So yeah, let us know. Take care.
Take care. Thank you. Bye now.